I'll be your counselor today. What's your name?
Rebecca.
Okay, before we start anything, I'll tell you about confidentiality. So this service is free service. Whenever you want to continue, you can continue. Whenever you want to discontinue, it's totally up to you. And I'll do my best to help you to achieve your goals and to help you in any other things if you want. And to be honest, some people get benefit from the counseling, some people don't get benefits. So whatever you decide, we'll continue towards it. And whatever you share with me in this room, it will be private and confidential, unless if you tell me that you are at risk of harming yourself or to some other people, I have to share your information. And you have to sign a consent release form, which allows me to talk about our conversation with my supervisor or colleagues. If you tell me about any child abuse, neglect, or to anyone under 16, or if you are sexually abused by a medical professional, I have to share your information, like whatever we had talked in this room. Or if I'm summoned to a court and have to provide client files, then I have to share your information. Other than that, there will be nothing I will share out of this room. And I would like you to sign this paper. It's basically what I say, but if you want to go through it, you can, and you can sign it. Okay, thank you. So what brings you here?
Well, I found out some things about my relationship that I think I've kind of put it into a different perspective, and I'm kind of like concerned. So my boyfriend and I have been dating for 11 months, and I know that that doesn't seem like a long time to some people, but we pretty much spend all our time together. Like I work with him, you know, when I'm not at my own house, I'm at his house, and I'm there pretty much 24/7. So I basically live with him. And it's not like in a way that we smother each other. It's that we always want to be together. We want to do everything together. We want to go everywhere, all this stuff. And so our relationship has been perfectly fine since then. And then just in January, like in the middle of January, we went to New Brunswick for the weekend because my boyfriend is going to school in New Brunswick for football. He plays football and he's going there on a scholarship.
Okay.
And because it's so far away, we, you know, went down for a visit one weekend and whatever. And I stayed in a hotel with his family, and he stayed on the school campus the whole weekend to kind of get a feel of what it's going to be like to live there with other people and have roommates and stuff like that.
Okay. So what I understood is that you guys are dating from 11 months and living together, working together, and you both are not in same school, right?
No, I'm in college. He's in grade 12.
Okay. So he's shifting in another town. That's what
Yeah.
I understood. Okay. And you went with him to see the university and all, and you guys didn't stay together. He stayed in campus. And where were you staying?
I was in a hotel like a half an hour away with his family because his
Okay.
parents and his aunt and his brother went. So like we stayed in a hotel and he stayed on the campus. Like we dropped him off on the Friday night, and we saw him Saturday during the day when we went to the school, and we kind of got a tour of the school and met the football coach and some of the teachers and stuff. We saw him then.
Okay.
And then we went back to the hotel and whatever, and he stayed on campus, and we saw him Sunday morning because they picked him up, and then we went back, you know, we drove back here, back home. And
so you stayed with his family.
Yeah.
And he was staying alone on the campus, and then you guys...
He wasn't by himself. He was with like other guys who were going to that school, like other football players and stuff who drove down for the weekend as well.
Okay, so he plays football for school?
Yeah.
Okay.
And he's going to this university on a scholarship. And so yeah, like we saw him a couple times in the weekend and whatever, and then we drove home the Sunday, and it's like a 15-hour drive, so it was a long drive, but we drove home the Sunday and whatever, and then during the weekend, though, on the Saturday when me and his family went over to the school and we saw, like, we visited the school and talked to the teachers and coaches and stuff. I mean, I won't say that I was being like bad in a way, but I had sort of like a sour attitude, and like I just, it's not that I didn't want to be there and I didn't want to see the school and that I didn't care and I wasn't interested. It's just that seeing the school from my own eyes and seeing how far it took us to get there, that it was going to be that far away from home,
Okay.
was hard for me to see. Like it did make me emotional, but deep inside it made me emotional, and I hid that and I showed more attitude than I did emotion, and I kind of just looked disinterested. I looked like I didn't care, but truth is I did. It was just hard for me to think, 15 hours all the way over here, this is where my boyfriend's going to be and I'm going to be 15 hours here. Like, It's a change, to be together all the time, and then all of a sudden we were going to have to do this long distance relationship.
Yeah, so you mentioned that after coming back to this place, after seeing the university and all, you mentioned that you felt bad or you didn't want it to be that bad. What do you mean by that?
Like it's just kind of the way that I came off. Like I don't want to say that I didn't care, but it's like seeing the school in front of me. It was a nice school. It was it was awesome. I have no complaints about the school whatsoever or the football program he's going to. But it's like just seeing it for myself, driving all the way over there to see that this is where he's going.
Mm-hmm.
It hurt me. Like it made me emotional because it's like this is going to be where he is and I'm going to be all the way up here. And it was like we were going to have to, our lives were going to change. And
okay. So you went with him, you saw the university, everything was fine between you guys, right? And do you have any conversation with him while going there or while coming back that make you feel bad or emotional?
Well, that same day, while we were on the tour, he would come up and say hi to me because like the night before we hadn't seen each other.
Mm-hmm.
And he would come up and say hi to me on the tour and talk to me, say, like, how's your day going? Hi babe, all this stuff. And I would say hi, like I would talk to him, but I would say, hi, like I'm doing good, I'm fine.
So you were feeling emotionally depressed, like he's going far away from you. Like
yeah, but I didn't want to show it. But I didn't want to show it to him. So
but you don't want it to make him feel like you're feeling nervous.
Yeah,
right? That's what you.
So mean? I tried to hide it basically, and he would talk to me, and I would say hi, like I'm doing good, whatever, and then I would say, go be with your friends. Like I would kind of push him to go be with his friends.
Okay.
This weekend's all about you. It's not about me. We're, enjoy your weekend. I'm here with you, but enjoy the weekend with your friends and all the guys who you're going to be going to school with in September. Mm-hmm. I'm going to stay here with, your family and kind of let you do your thing. We're going to see each other when we go home. So mm-hmm. have this weekend all to yourself. Like I was kind of pushing him that way, and I guess he didn't see it as like the way I did. He saw it as, me coming off being mean, that I didn't care, that I didn't want anything to do with it. That's not how I meant it. And so, the weekend went on or whatever, and that night, we were texting, and I was in the hotel, and he was at a party with all those guys that he was hanging out with. And it's not that we were fighting, but it just seemed like everything we were saying in the conversation, just we weren't getting along. And he asked me, how, why were you acting like that today? Why were you like pushing me away? And I told him, I said, it's your weekend. It's about you. You don't need to be with me the whole time, And I don't think he understood that I was doing that because I care about him and because I was trying to focus on him.
Right.
He saw it as me being rude in a way, and that's not what I meant. So he kind of was confused about it, and I tried to explain myself, but he's only going to understand me so much. And then, the weekend was over and we drove home, and after not seeing each other for just those 2 nights, I mean, those are probably 2 nights we haven't been together in a long time.
Okay.
But at the same time, on the way home, it was like he constantly wanted to hold me and hug me and be with me. It's like he missed me. And I thought, this is great. And we drove home and whatever, and then the following day, the Monday, I was talking to him, and I again tried to explain myself and said, you know, I wasn't trying to make it look like I didn't care. I just wanted you to have a good time.
Right.
And I felt bad because he sort of saw it differently than I meant it. And so I thought, I'm going to make it up to him. You know, I'm going to show him that I'm sorry that it came off that way. So I said, you know what, let's go to dinner. Let's go to the movies. Let's do this. And he wanted to go skating. So I said, let's go skating.
Okay.
I took him anywhere he wanted to go, anything he wanted to do. So basically for the following 3 or 4 days, I took him out and I spent probably $300 on him in 3 days. And I said, whatever you want to do, we'll do it. You want to go here, we'll do that. You want to do this, we'll do that. I basically gave him everything he wanted because I wanted to show him that I was sorry, and I didn't know how else to show him that. So I thought spending money would make sense. So I spent that money on him, and we, you know, did all sorts of fun things.
Yeah. So what I understood till now is that you, at the time when you were guys on his university, saying everything, you were giving him space, like that it's his weekend, like enjoy your weekend and be with your friends and all, but he took it wrongly.
Yeah.
And he was upset with you.
Yeah, he was upset because he thought I was kind of being rude and showing that I didn't care, but I was doing that. I was giving him his space, right?
Yeah.
It's your weekend. This is the one weekend where, you know, it's all about you, so enjoy it. Like, I'm not stopping you. And he saw it as me kind of pushing him away and not caring about anything, kind of just showing disinterest.
Okay. And you guys had conversation about that topic also, right? While coming home?
Yeah.
Okay. So what kind of feeling do you get right now? Do you guys still together, or like any conversation going between you guys right now?
We're not together anymore, but it's because, like, ever since that weekend, a lot of stuff has happened, and things didn't work out between us, and I've just been really, you know, upset and depressed about it lately. Like I've been upset, but I have been more angry than I have been upset because that week when I, you know, took him out and did all this stuff, I mean, I wouldn't really discuss this. Like, this isn't a huge part of it, but, like, he got whatever he wanted and didn't go unsatisfied every night kind of thing. And then, you know, the following weekend, he and I spent Saturday during the day together at his house, and we were, you know, playing our games, watching movies, doing stuff together. We were sitting right beside each other the whole time.
After coming back, right? After
yeah,
coming
this
back,
was a
you
week
guys
after.
spent 3 days and everything outside. Yeah, right.
And then the following weekend, we were together that Saturday, and we were at his house. And I noticed that he was acting really strange. Like, he had his phone with him, and I had mine too. Like, we always have our phones with us. But it's like he was acting extra weird with his phone. Like, he'll take his phone with him when he goes and does stuff, but it's like not all the time. Like, he doesn't have to have his phone right there when he walks out of the room or when he does this or goes here. He's not obsessed with his phone, but it was like when he left the room, he took his phone with him. When he went to the bathroom, he took his phone with him. And when he was sitting next to me and had his phone, he was sort of like leaning a different way, sort of hiding his phone from me, and I could see that he was texting somebody, and I assumed it was one of his buddies, but I guess I was wrong, and he was just hiding it from me. So I thought, well, what's going on? Why are you hiding it from me? You know what I mean? Like, we don't go through each other's phone, but we're honest with each other, and, you know, we don't hide anything. So I thought, if he's talking to one of his friends and I know who they are, then why do you need to hide it, you know? So he was just acting really weird, and, like, when he would get a text message, he would sort of, like, turn the other way so I wouldn't see it, or he would put his phone face down so I wouldn't see a text message come in.
Right.
And it was just weird. Like, I've never seen him do that before, and I mean, he's attached to his phone to a certain way, but not that weird around his phone, and I noticed that.
Can you explain me more about, like, what do you mean by weird or strange? Like, have he behaved before, something like that? Or?
No, I've never seen him so, like, skittish with his phone, and like, it definitely looked like he was hiding something.
Okay.
And that's how I noticed, because I was like, was doing my own thing, but I was kind of keeping an eye on him, and I noticed he was acting like that with his phone, and I thought, it's just weird, like, you know, he's just very protective.
Yeah, so you felt like he is hiding something from you?
Yeah, but I didn't say anything to him because I didn't want to just jump at him about it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just, you know, thought in my head, maybe it's nothing. Just forget about it.
Yeah.
And then later that night, he went to work, and I was at his house. I didn't work that night, but he did.
Mm-hmm.
And I was getting ready and getting dressed and doing my makeup and everything, and I was going to pick him up from work because after he was done work, we were going to his uncle's house to have some drinks and play games and just hang out.
Okay, so as you said that uncle's house and you guys both work together, do you guys have family business, and are you guys attached with your families? Like your families knows each other, and
yeah, our
do you know
families-
his parents and
Yeah,
everything?
yeah. I'm really close with his parents. Well, his mom more than his dad, but like I'm close with his parents,
Okay.
and they work at our work too. Like it's not a family-owned business,
Mm-hmm.
but his aunt is our manager, and his mom and dad work there as well. So it's like I see his family and him a lot because we work together, and I'm always at his house,
Mm-hmm.
and our families know of each other. Like my parents have met his parents before, and
Okay,
his
right.
family, so they get along.
Yeah, so what I understood is that you guys are familiar with your families and like
Mhm.
both know each other very closely, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, I was getting ready, and I was going over to work to pick him up,
Mm-hmm.
and I walked in, and you know, I walked into the office, and he was sitting there, and his phone was on the desk, and he was on the computer, and as I stepped into the office, as soon as I stepped right beside him, like as soon as I stepped foot and we were like right next to each other, a text message came up on his phone from a girl named Lauren.
Okay.
And we know about I know about his friends. I know who his friends are. I've seen them before. We've hung with them before. He knows who my friends are.
So you guys are familiar with the friends, like.
Yeah, we know
Who are-
who's
yeah,
involved in
right.
each other's lives.
Mm-hmm.
And once I saw the text message, the first thing that popped in my head was, I've never heard of you having a friend named Lauren before. And I said, who's Lauren? Like, who is that?
Mm-hmm.
And he said, oh, nobody, it's just a friend. And I said, well, you've never mentioned this friend to me before. Like, we know who's in each other's lives. So
Yeah.
it was just kind of a yellow flag to me. And I said, well, who's Lauren? And he goes, it's nobody, it's just a friend. And when he opened the text message, you could see previous messages between them, and you could tell they've had a conversation before. And in my head, right then, I figured out that was why he was so skittish all that day and so
Okay.
protective of his phone, was because he was talking to this girl, and I didn't know who she was, so he was
Okay.
hiding it from me.
Right. So at that moment, you flashback everything that why he's behaving that way, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so I asked him, I said, just a friend. I said, is that why you've been so like weird with your phone today? You've been really protective of it? And he goes, yeah, but she's just a friend. And I said, well, if she's just a friend, you don't need to hide it from me. Like, you know what I
Right.
mean? There's got to be more to it. And I kind of got upset with him, and I didn't want to fight, so I kind of left work. I went out behind the store, and I stood there, and I just needed air to think for a second. Because when I came across it, it was like a yellow flag, and I was like, okay, something's not right. But instead of freaking out about it, I
Mhm.
needed to take a minute to myself and think about it, and think, is this what I think it is, or is this just maybe I'm overthinking it, something like that. But I went out back, and I just kind of took a minute to myself, and I cried a little bit, because my first thought was, who is this girl? Like, you know what I mean? Cheating? I wasn't sure. So
you went there to pick him up, and you saw one text message coming from another girl you don't know, and you didn't say anything to him at that moment, but you came outside. Or
Yeah,
did you had a conversation with him or cried with him or anything?
No, I didn't, not at first. Like, at first I was just like, who's this girl? Like, you
Yeah.
know what I mean? And I said, is that why you were acting weird with your phone all day? And he said, yeah. He said, but she's just a friend. I didn't want you to get upset with me. And so
Mhm.
then, before I said anything else, I just walked outside, and I had a minute to myself, and I cried a little bit. And then he came outside and saw that I was upset, and he said, that he's sorry, and that she's just a friend, and they were just talking, and he said, you know, I met her that weekend. We went down to New Brunswick. I met her at a party for like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And my first thought was, if you met her and she's just a friend, fine, you can have friends. But if you only met her for 10 minutes,
Yeah.
how did you manage to get her phone number in 10 minutes? Like, it's not the first thing you open a conversation with when you meet somebody. Hey, how are you? Hi, can I have your phone number? Like, it's not the first thing you say.
Yeah.
So I was curious, and he said that she was just a friend. They met for 10 minutes. He didn't tell me because he didn't want me to get upset, because he knows that sometimes I get jealous easy when girls, you know, kind of throw themselves at him.
Mm-hmm.
And he didn't want to upset me, but I was more upset that he didn't tell me more than if he were to tell me, because then at least I would know, right? But he hid it from me, so I feel like I couldn't trust him.
Mm-hmm.
And I was upset, and he saw I was upset, and he hugged me and comforted me, and he just kept saying sorry and kept saying that he loved me and that he was sorry. And then we let go of it. Like, we talked about it, we worked through it. Then we went to his uncle's house, and everything was fine. And then the next day, we were still at his uncle's house because we slept over.
Mm-hmm.
And then that Sunday night, I went to work and he went to his house. And he told me that he deleted her number and told her that, you know, he can't talk to her anymore because, you know, his girlfriend's a little upset that, you know, they were talking, and it's just kind of weird.
Okay.
And so while I was at work, the only thing I could think of was, what if she didn't respect those boundaries and she kept texting him and kept texting him? That's an easy way for him to get her number back.
Yeah.
And he could keep talking to her too. So all I could think of was, what if they're still talking? What if he's being dishonest with me again?
Mm-hmm.
And he's still talking to her? And I was so paranoid about it. And so when I got home from work, I went to his house, and I was nervous, and I didn't want to like get mad at him,
Mm-hmm.
but I wanted to talk about it. But before I went to his house, I went to my best friend's house, and I told her everything.
Yeah.
And she gave me advice, and I talked to her mom because her mom was there, and I told her everything that's happened and gone on since that weekend we went to New Brunswick. And she said, you know what? Trust your instinct. She said, if you have a feeling something is going on, chances are you're going to be right. You just have to sort of investigate it. She said, just observe how things go. If things start getting even more weird between you two and things are just not normal, then something is going on.
Mm-hmm.
But she said, just observe it, and, you know, don't jump at him and freak out all of a sudden.
Yeah, right.
And then I went to his house after, and I was upset, obviously, but I tried to take her advice and, you know, wait things out and figure out how things go, but it was like I couldn't do it. As soon as I got home, I jumped at him and I said, I want to see your phone. Like, let me see your phone. Let me see who you're talking to, because I was scared they were talking again, and I thought, if this girl doesn't respect the fact that he's in a relationship and he doesn't respect me enough to not talk to her, then something is going on.
Okay, right.
So
You met with his mother before talking to him, and
I met with my best friend's mom.
Yeah. Oh, you like not his mother.
Not
but-
his mom, no.
Okay, right. So, did you notice anything before, like, this thing happens? Something like this, similar things going on between you guys, or this is the first time this
This
things
is the
come
first time. Yeah, this is the first time anything ever like this has happened in a relationship. Like, we've been perfectly fine. I've never been in a situation like this where I've caught him talking to somebody that I've never heard of before.
Okay.
So this is the first time anything like this has happened.
Hmm.
And when I got to his house, I kind of jumped at him and I freaked out and I said, you know, let me see your phone, let me see who you're talking to. Like,
So before that, he told you that he deleted the number and he told that girl that he can't talk to her anymore.
Yeah.
But the things made you thinking that, okay, no, he is still talking with her, something like that. Okay, then what happened? You went to his place and...
Yeah, I went to his place and I asked to see his phone. I asked to see his text messages, who he was talking to, because I was scared he was talking to her.
Mm-hmm.
And when I looked in his contacts, you know, there was no Lauren named. So I thought, okay, he did delete her and she didn't text back. They're not talking. Fine. I checked his messages and it was fine. But it's like, I checked his contacts and his messages, and before I could check anything else, he grabbed his phone from me.
So he didn't allow you to look at his phone. You just went and took his phone and started to check everything.
I saw some of his, I saw who his contacts are, and I saw his messages, and I was gonna check his, his Twitter or his Facebook.
Yeah.
And before I could, he grabbed the phone from me, and he kind of got upset with me and said, this is crazy. You don't trust me, and I mean, you say you trust me, but then you want to see my text messages and you want to see who I'm talking to. But I told him, I said, I have every reason to, because I've kind of, some weird things have just happened, and it's just made me question what's going on.
Yeah.
And then he said that he was upset with me, and I was stressing him out, and that he needed time, he needed space, and he needed time to think about what was best for him, because he just wasn't able to deal with all this right now.
Okay.
And he told me that another part of it too was that I haven't been supportive about him going off to school, which isn't true. I've been supportive for him, but it's just because ever since he's he's committed to going to this school, obviously I've been upset, and there's been times where I've cried about it, because he's going so far away, and that means we're going to have to do a long distance relationship, and that's a big change from seeing each other every day to seeing each other on Thanksgiving or holidays.
Okay, so when you say that you are not happy by long distance relationship, did you ever talked about this thing with him, and what was his reaction when you told him that you're not ready for it?
Yeah, we've had the conversation before, and he said, we're gonna be fine, we'll get through it, we're gonna see each other more often than you think we will.
So his point of view was positive. He was positive between these things, it's okay, we will manage it, right?
Yeah, he's been positive about it and stuff when we've talked about it at times. And I mean, I know, I've been positive too, but I've let my emotions show more than he has. I've cried about it more in front of him, and it's not because I didn't want him to go and I didn't want to support him. It's just because it was just a hard thing to deal with, and there were times where he cried too, but he saw it as me not supporting him, but I was supporting him. I was just trying to accept the fact that things were going to slowly start to change, but I knew we were going to be fine. I knew we were going to get through it.
Mm-hmm.
It's just my first reaction was to cry, because it was upsetting to think about it.
Okay.
But he sees that as not being supportive, so he brought that up
Mm-hmm.
and said, you're not supporting me, and you're getting upset all the time, and now you don't trust me. But he said all that stuff, and then he said he needed time to think about what's best for him. He needed space. And so after that conversation that night, we just didn't really talk to each other, and I slept at his house that night because it was late and I didn't want to go home. And things were fine. I mean, he didn't talk to me, he didn't interact with me, he didn't hug me or kiss me or anything.
Mm-hmm.
And I woke up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom, and there was we were sleeping in the same bed still, but there was a pillow between us, standing up as if it was a small wall right there.
Okay, yeah.
So it's he was trying to put a barrier between us so that we wouldn't have contact with each other.
Okay.
And as soon as I saw that, I thought it was really weird, and I just left it, and I went to the bathroom, and then I went back to bed, and I left the pillow there. But the next morning, he woke up to get ready for school, and when he was about to leave, he didn't kiss me goodbye, he didn't hug me, he just said goodbye, and he gave me a small smile, and he just left.
Okay.
So I knew that things were weird, and it felt weird, and I tried to not think too harshly about it. I thought, don't overthink it, don't get your hopes up. And I went home later that day, spent the next couple days at my house, and I would text him every now and then, ask him how his day was going, and tell him that I loved him and that I hoped, we would work this out, because my first thought was that he was gonna break up with me. So I was like, I don't want that to happen, and I just did my own thing. I was at my house, and I was upset, right? So I cried a lot, and I was upset most of the time, and then a couple days later, I went over to his house so we could talk, and
So in between this all things, none of your parents knew about this whole situation,
I
right?
told my mom about what happened. She wasn't very supportive though. Her response was, don't think about it. you'll be fine, you'll find somebody else. Like, it was as if her advice would kind of make you think that we already broke up and we hadn't even broken up yet.
Okay.
So her advice was not very comforting,
Mhm.
and I just didn't want to, I didn't want to talk to her about it, so I told her, to leave. And I obviously cried, so I was by myself. And then a couple days later, I went to his house and we talked about us and what was going on, and he had his space and his time to think, and
Mhm.
I needed to know what was going on. And
Yeah.
and he said that he's been stressed out because I haven't been supporting him, and then I said I didn't trust him and all this stuff, and he just kind of was throwing blame at me for a lot of things.
Mhm.
And he wasn't, like, it was as if he was throwing blame for a lot of things on me, but there was nothing he did wrong.
Okay.
And I did a lot more talking than he did, and a lot of my talking consisted of me telling him that I love him, and kind of getting upset and crying and saying that, I don't want to break up, but it feels like you're about to break up with me, and you're mad at me for all this stuff, but it's not as bad as you think it is. Like, I have been supporting you, and I do trust you, but when I see something that's kind of suspicious, I'm going to question it. I'm going to ask you what's going on.
Yeah.
And it's like, when I did ask him, he freaked out at me and got mad, and then after that conversation, he said, I think you should go home. I need to think, and I'll call you when you get home. And I said, okay. And I went home, and he called me, and we talked for a few minutes, and then he said, I need to just be on my own. And I said, what do you mean you need to be on your own? And he said, I need to be by myself, not in a relationship. I need to just do what's best for me. I need to focus on football and school coming up, and I have to do what's best for me. I need to think about me and not think about us.
Okay.
And that was his way of breaking up with me, and I was upset, and I cried, and I cried, and I cried. And I was on the phone with him, and he saw me cry, and he cried a little too. But it's like, the fact that I was extremely hurt didn't really seem to matter to him, and that made it even worse for me. So weeks went by, and obviously it was hard. I cried a lot, and I was upset all the time, and I stopped going to school, and I stopped doing stuff for myself. I didn't really take care of myself very well, and I just gave up on everything. And then I went out one night with my best friend. We went to the mall, and her boyfriend lives in Montreal.
Okay.
He goes to school there, so they are doing a long distance relationship, but they're working out. And one of my boyfriend's friends was in Montreal with my best friend's boyfriend, so they were together.
Okay.
And they were talking, and this guy who was down there, he was also in New Brunswick the same weekend that I went there.
Right.
So he knows how the weekend went, and he was there and whatever. And I saw him there, said hi to him. And so he was at my best friend's boyfriend's place in Montreal. And they were hanging out talking, and he was visiting that school. And so my best friend's boyfriend asked him, how did the weekend go in New Brunswick?
Yeah.
Because my boyfriend and my best friend's boyfriend are cousins. So they usually they talk a lot. They, when he comes down here, they'll hang out and stuff, and they'll text and call, whatever. They keep in touch with each other.
Okay.
But my boyfriend hasn't really reached out to him at all lately. And so when his friend was in Montreal with my best friend's boyfriend, they talked about the weekend in New Brunswick, and said, he said, how'd it go? Did you like the school? All this stuff. And then he found out that when my boyfriend was in Montreal, when he went to a party on Saturday night, that he ended up cheating on me, and he hooked up with 2 different girls that night, and he told my best friend's boyfriend, and obviously he told my best friend, and my best friend told me. So it all came back to me. But I found that out, and I was angry. I was upset, and I was angry, and I got in my car, and I drove to his house, and I texted him, and I said, you need to come downstairs and talk to me right now. And it was like 11 o'clock at night, so it was kind of late, but he came downstairs, and I messaged him, and he came and talked to me, and then I when he opened the door, I said, you know, when were you going to tell me you cheated on me? And his reaction was kind of, he was shocked.
Okay. So you got all this information from your best friend, and he didn't tell you anything about this.
No.
So you got mad, you went there, and you talked with him, and his reaction was like, what are you talking about, right?
Yeah, I said, when were you going to tell me you cheated on me? And he's like, where did you hear that? That's not true.
Yeah.
And I said, well, it is true, and I heard it. I didn't tell him who I heard it from because I didn't want to throw anybody under the bus.
Yeah.
But I said, I heard it from somebody. That's all that matters. When were you going to tell me? When were you going to be honest with me? And I even told him, I said, you watched me feel bad about how I came off that weekend we were in New Brunswick.
Mm-hmm.
So then the week we got back, I took you out to dinner, I took you to the movies, I spent all this money on you, and you had no problem accepting all of that,
Yeah.
but not telling me that you cheated on me. So you basically used me for all of that.
Yeah.
And he's like, that's not true. Where did you hear that? Like, he just kept asking me where I heard it from, and kept telling me it wasn't true. And I said, just be honest with me. Like, I was just so angry. I said, just be honest with me and tell me, did it happen?
Mm-hmm.
And he said no. And we talked for about 20 minutes, and then I started crying, and I was upset because, you know, I couldn't believe that was true, and I was hoping it wasn't true.
Yeah.
And I said, you know, I believe you if you say it's not true, but why is other people saying that it is?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he said it wasn't. And he kept denying it, and then he gave me a hug, and he gave me a kiss, and all this stuff. So it was like, I didn't think it was true because of the way he was acting towards how upset I was.
Okay.
And then I left, and I mean,
so at first point you thought it's true that he cheated you, right? And at next point when you met him, you talked about this topic with him, he convinced you that it's not true, and you believed it.
yeah.
Okay. What next? What happened?
And then I left. I was upset, and I left, and days went by, and we've been very honest with each other while we were in a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
I would let him, you know, look at my messages because I have nothing to hide, and he would, you know, show me his and whatever. And our social media, like our Instagram or Twitter or Facebook, anything like that, I don't think he knew my passwords, but I knew his passwords because there were times where, you know, he would get me to log into his thing for him because he was busy or something, and he would say, can you type this in for me? And I would say, well, what's your password? And he would tell me. So he was honest with me,
Yeah.
but we were never in a situation where it was vice versa, where he knew my passwords, but I knew his.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I'm not proud of it, but I used it to my advantage, and, you know, we weren't together, and I found out he cheated on me, and he denied it to me, so I wanted to know if he was lying to me or if it really did happen.
Yeah.
So I logged into his Twitter,
Mm-hmm.
because I knew his password, and I went through his messages, and I saw messages between him and the same guy who told my best friend's boyfriend what happened.
Okay.
So he messaged him and said, you know, oh, why'd you tell Rebecca that this happened, and blah, 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 blah. So that's how I figured out that he lied to my face when I went to his house and asked him about it.
Okay.
So he was basically giving this guy shit for, you know,
Telling you all the story,
for
right?
telling me what happened.
Mhm.
So he was trying to hide it, and I guess this guy didn't hide it, and then he got caught. So
Okay.
he was kind of getting mad at him about it and stuff. So that's how I figured out he lied to me and that it was 100% true.
Okay, so what did you did like after finding out that okay he's lying to you? Did you went back with him to tell him that you find out that he's lying or anything? Did you guys
No.
had any conversation afterwards?
I didn't go back and talk to him about it. I mean, we texted and stuff every now and then, and I would tell him that, you know, I was upset and that I was hurt, and that this whole breakup was just really hard for me to deal with. But it's like he didn't really seem to care.
Okay.
He wasn't very sympathetic towards it, and his response a lot of the time was, you'll be fine, you'll get over it, you'll find somebody else. It was like he was pushing me away. He didn't care that he hurt me, and that made it worse, and it made me more angry than it did upset. And like, because I knew his password, I would go on and I would, you know, look at his stuff and I would check. And I went on his Instagram and I found messages between him and his ex-girlfriend. And I figured out through those messages that he was dating her again.
Okay.
So 2-3 weeks after we broke up, he was already in another relationship. And it was just really hard for me to accept that, because I was sitting here crying and crying and crying because my heart was broken, and he was perfectly fine dating another girl. And it made me question, did he ever love me? Was it ever a real relationship to him, or was he just using me to have me around? Like, what was going on? And I just didn't understand, and I became so depressed about the breakup that I stopped going to school. I barely went to work. I stopped hanging out with my friends. I didn't pay attention to my family. I didn't even pay attention to myself. I couldn't eat. I couldn't shower. I couldn't even get out of my bed. Like, I was just a mess. I was not myself. And it's been 2 months since we broke up, and I'm better. I'm a lot better than I am, like, now than I was before. I'm more angry about the situation, to the point where I'm like, I don't even care about you anymore. Like, it's whatever. I'm over it.
Yeah.
So I'm better now, but it's like there are still times where it gets to me, and it, you know, I'll have a moment to myself, by myself, where I will cry for a few minutes, and then I will wipe the tears off, and it's like I become angry again. And I just think, you know, screw him, I don't need it. I deserve better than that. Like, I was faithful to him. I never cheated on him. The thought never even crossed my mind. And I have done nothing but make him my number one priority for the last 11 months.
Okay.
And it's like he just took me for granted. Just one night, he took me for granted. One night we weren't together, and, you know, I slipped his mind long enough for another girl to come into his arms. And it scares me. And it's like, now we still work together. It's awkward, but we still work together. And I don't talk to him. I don't even look at him. But it's like, he's not even the same person anymore. And it scares me. And he always hangs out with his new girlfriend, and she comes around work. So it makes it awkward for me.
Okay.
And it's like, he's just not the same person anymore. But I mean, I guess I'm just taking it one day at a time.
So after all this happened, you guys broke up, and you guys not in conversation, like not in touch, but right?
No.
And like he is already in relationship right now with his ex.
Yeah.
And you still work at his place, right? You guys work at same place.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So I have one more client coming at this time, so we'll end up this conversation, this counseling session here. And if you'd like to book an appointment for another day, you can book at reception, and you can call in. And if you feel like you want to talk more about your relationship, and if you're getting benefit, like while talking with me, or anything you feel it's good, you're getting positive vibe, you can come again if you want. It's totally upon you.
Okay.
Okay? So we'll end the session here, okay?
Okay. Thank you.
Hold on.